when we look at tight ends and how they've done against the Eagles, not named Kelsey, which means that they are a tier or 2 or 3 lower than Travis Kelsey because they're not named Travis Kelsey, very successful. 5 touchdowns to tight ends this year. Hunter Henry, Hockenson scored twice. Logan Thomas, Jake Ferguson, all these guys got into the end zone. So Kelsey, anytime touchdown is going to be popular. Would I be shocked if we saw multiple touchdowns in this spot? Absolutely not. Eagles dead last in the National Football League in DVOA against the tight end position, and it's not just any normal dude. Like, I know it's just so obvious, but it makes perfect sense that Kelsey has a big spot here over the middle. They stink. Their defense stinks. I'm actually, it's part of the reason that people have been so down on the Eagles, that they're talking about them in a negative tone, despite the 8-1 record, because the defense is not what we expected. With the elite pass rush, you expect them to shut everything down. And the secondary that we saw last year, that has not been the case this season. So between the Swifts, I'm going the home Swift. I'm going Travis Kelsey. Props are definitely a strong look tonight. And with the wind expected, they're saying right now 15 miles per hour. I don't know if the receivers on the outside are going to be involved as much. It might be a lot of stuff over the middle or keeping it closer to the line of scrimmage with Kelsey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I saw that same stat about the Eagles and the DVOA. I was like, wow, with the tight end. So
Yeah.
it does seem like a Travis Kelsey situation. This is a tough one in terms of like revenge, and both teams have time to prepare. Of course, you've got the Chiefs at home, but now you've got some rain and wind. This one really is tough to figure out, but it does seem like running props with either Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Travis Kelsey. I think that's where I'll be looking. I thought about AJ Brown because he's been on such a tear. 80.5. Does he go off? But then with this weather, you just never know. But the Chiefs defense is amazing, but except for the run defense is definitely an area where they could be exposed. So I think I'll just mostly be looking at props here. I mean, I honestly could see a situation where the Eagles do win by like a point, just because they are so angry and probably feel like they should have won that Super Bowl matchup. But then you've got the whole Andy Reid off the bye and the Chiefs at home. This is a tough one for me on the spread. I may just stay away and stick with props, even though I had a rough weekend with props.
We shall take a drink every time the props get mentioned from this weekend, right?
Yeah.
You bring up a good point when it comes to this whole idea of, okay, the Chiefs, they care about the pass defense. Absolutely they do. The run defense could be a little bit suspect. I wonder if a lot of that is more about philosophy than it is actually personnel. You have some teams out there in the NFL where they go, okay, pass defense matters a lot more than run defense. Consistency-wise, pass defense matters a good bit more. And look, the Chiefs can contain the pass very, very well. This is one of the reasons why I'm not so sure I would endorse going over A.J. Brown pops, despite the fact that he's been phenomenal all season long. Yeah. Certainly, I think a great contender for Offensive Player of the Year. But this Chiefs pass defense has been fantastic. They're young, they're scrappy, they've contained a lot of great offenses pretty much all season long. And the pass rush has certainly been a great complement to that. And I think one thing that we're noticing, Joe, when it comes to this Chiefs pass defense is, okay, well, because they're so good at it, now they can blitz a little bit more. Now it's likely Jalen Hurts is going to see a little bit more pressure in his face than he normally does, despite a good offensive line in front of him. Wouldn't be surprised if George Karlaftis and guys like that are able to pressure Jalen Hurts some more. If those sacks occur and they start to accrue, then the Eagles could very well have a long day.
Admit it. You've been pushing Vance against Joseph. This for a month. This Broncos defense is much, much better.
Okay. It went from historically the worst we've ever seen in our lifetimes to...
They're legit.
I think Surtain is legit. I've loved him for a long time, but I still, like, a lot of this was just because of takeaways, right? Like, that's kind of the stretch. Like, when you look at, like, the numbers since this winning streak started, they haven't really done anything spectacular. Yeah, they've gone up against some good offenses and some bad ones too, but I'm still not of the belief that what the Broncos are doing is sustainable. I think it's just they're being fortunate with takeaways. They're getting teams at just the right time. Russell Wilson is not a terrible quarterback. He was last year, but he was also coached horribly. And I look at this and go, all right, well, it's a cool story. If somehow they break into the playoffs, I will be shocked. But it would also point to just some insane luck that they got to enjoy.
All right. I see the last 6 games, they have not given up more than 22 points. Like,
I think maybe
if you want, I don't know if it's all turnovers. I
rush
can't buy into that.
defense is not good. I think there's room for improvement there because I saw the Vikings rushing pretty well against them, and they faced some pretty good offenses who can run the ball coming up. So that'll be a tough test for this. We'll see if they're legit after they play the Browns and some.
And the Vikings have not been good at running the football at all this year. Like
they don't run the football.
Good at.
Yeah,
exactly.
They had 175.
But I can't give the Broncos any flowers at this point. I just can't. I mean, and it's not just because
they
of
were
the
like
one
all-time
game.
bad. People were saying the worst ever. Like, it's
okay,
I
they're not the worst
understand.
ever.
Okay,
I
you
will
want to
grant
see
that.
it against good. They're at least average, like middle of the league. You don't think they're middle of the league? That is a massive jump.
It is a massive jump
from where they were. Yeah,
it is. But like, if you're middle of the league, you're not on a 4-game winning streak. I guess that's my point, is that the way that they're playing is not so exceptional to the point where they deserve to have all of these wins. I wouldn't go that far. I think they are.
Okay.
I mean, we had this conversation about the Raiders before. Like, yeah, they've got an okay record, but they stink. I'm that way with Denver right now. And I'm probably more adamant about that with Denver, just because I think some of the glaring weaknesses are going to come back to haunt them. And I would not be surprised if they fall back down to reality quickly.
I just feel like we're stretching for excuses. Like next week, the excuse is going to be, oh, it's DTR. You're facing one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. Like, well, you did it twice against the Chiefs, but they don't really run the ball. Oh, you did it against the Bills. That offense is broke. I feel like we're just constantly, I don't know. I would put them in the middle now, which is them jumping multiple tiers in season. And I think this is another example of a new defensive coordinator figuring things out, figuring out what changes he had to make, makes those adjustments, and then they're much better. That it's 5 guys for Coach of the Year. I know he's recently won, but everything they're dealing with, should we be talking about Stefanski?
You know, it's one of those things where I would like to. The name definitely popped up as you were talking, like, wow, Stefanski really deserves a lot more credit than this. But I'm also curious, too, when you've got great coordinators who have dominated their respective side of the ball, if that matters in the grand scheme of things. Like the whole Kevin O'Connell argument, you know, the Vikings lost on Sunday night to the Broncos real quickly there. I thought that was a bad loss, and certainly impacts O'Connell as far as Coach of the Year goes. But a bigger issue to me is if you are dominating one side of the ball, like the Browns have with their defense, and you're dealing with, you know, professional journeyman quarterbacks or rookies who are having to do just enough to win, I wonder how much of that is, okay, you point to the coordinator, like Jim Schwartz for the Browns, and you go, all right, he's really the reason why the Browns are where they are, because the defense is elite. How much of that is Stefanski? Certainly he's played a role, and he's certainly helping the organization come together. Don't want to take anything away from him there. But when one side of the ball is oh so dominant and the other one is doing just enough to survive, I wonder if that's more of a knock when it comes to Coach of the Year compared with, say, someone where every single phase is working very well.